Hello, my beautiful friends. It's me, Kirsten, and this is the It's Giving Mystical podcast. And this is your podcast for the week ahead, the week of February 7th. Just to check back in and remind us all that it is a Hermit year. And it's going to be so important if you have a practice with the cards. I encourage you to pull the Hermit card out of whatever deck you like to work with and just take a look at our good friend. In most decks, you're going to see a combination of symbols. You're going to see a cloak and you're going to see a lantern with a star in it of some kind of guiding light, some kind of protected guiding light, and you're going to see a staff. And those three symbols are just going to be so important this entire year. So the 9 year will bring endings, will bring completions. But the hermit is one who is prepared for the journey. And the way we prepare for the journey is that we have a cloak. It means we have healthy boundaries. We know when to protect ourselves. We know when to kind of shut off the outside world and turn inward. And I was speaking with a friend and a client yesterday, and we were talking about this idea of turning inward. And for some of us, that's still very much a journey of healing, and maybe that will be forever. But there is this moment, this kind of inflection point where if you've done the work to sit with your inner child, to do the work of making peace with whatever traumas you've experienced, making peace with your nervous system, becoming a friend to your nervous system, really understanding the larger sense of how much safety you deserve, how much you deserve the voices in your head to be kind ones, be encouraging ones. And although we might not negate the negative self talk forever, we can counterbalance it with powerful, powerful internal guardians. And when we get to this point, this inflection point, it becomes that turning inward becomes this place where we turn inward. And it is such a rich, beautiful place where we turn inward because in there it is safe and it is warm, it is inspiring, it is exciting, it is peaceful, it is beautiful. It's like the crystal caves when you journey into the earth, the beautiful crystal caves you find and discover, and the groundwaters that feed you in the same way your body becomes yourself, your energetic field becomes a similarly generative, restorative place. So the cloak is always a reminder of that. The star is the light that only you can generate and only you can match and only you can witness. And it is a new flame in this kind of myth that we're talking about, and it needs to be protected. So it's understanding what the guiding light is, what your north star is, what is the thing that your sacred fire we talked about a couple weeks ago. What is the thing, your guiding light? Like what is the thing that you are traveling towards and with? What is the medicine that you're here to fully embody? What is the medicine and the light you're here to fully engage with as a way not only to experience it, not only for life to experience itself through that, but as a way to, set a path, a new path for others who come after you. And maybe even to shine a light on the path for those who came before you and weren't able to walk there. And then lastly, the staff. The staff is to remind you to source into something deeper than yourself. It's a reminder to feel into the earth, to lean on the things that are going to, again, be generative, be nourishing, be nurturing, be sustaining, offer you power and resilience and resourcefulness when you feel drained, when you need it. And I want to just talk about this moment that we're in because everybody in the capitalist consumer marketplace is selling us fear. They always have been. And there is just so much rich material right now. It's so easy to be taken off balance by the amount of movement, the amount of just kind of noise, some very real in your life confrontations, and some more like theoretical, talking heads kind of energy. But there's something important about what you're co-regulating with. And it's very easy to become co-regulated with that fear, with that anxiety, with that sense of hopelessness. And I want to remind you of the only energy bigger than that. And that's not just your little being, right? You are embedded in a grid, in a network of life, of this earth, of an ecology of humans and other beings and energies that exist on this earth and beyond this earth. So remember that the same way that a baby or an infant needs to co-regulate with its caregiver, ideally a safe, resourced caregiver, you have the opportunity at all times to co-regulate with the earth. And that's why practices around breath or practices around grounding, practices like decoupling that help you sync up your sacral chakra, your heart chakra, and the beat of the earth. These are powerful ancient practices because we need to be reminded when things feel out of control, we need something healthy and safe to co regulate with. And this beautiful earth, we don't call her Mama Earth for no reason. Like she is the sacred mother, the beautiful, generative mother that is always beating in rhythm, right? She expresses in a million different styles and fashions and energies and moments and movements. But the pulse of her, the beat of her is consistent, and the beat of her is always available to you. Gravity's hold is always available to you. So the staff is the reminder of that. So may you have that with you. May you realize that's something you can lean on and be with at any moment, any time, whenever you need it. And then just to remind us that the February energy is always High Priestess energy. So it's always an invitation to turn back into our intuition, to connect with the void in the best way. The void, and we want to again think of that as a rich place. We think of silence and nothingness and how that can feel lonely, but we're really on this journey to discover that that's actually a very rich place, and that silence is a gifting place, and the void is a place that's meant to hold you and kind of refill you with its like pregnant emptiness, the rich soil of the earth, its rich emptiness, its rich potential. The high priestess is the part of you that is always connected to that. We in the Tarot Mystery School, we do a meditation around the high priestess. When I tell you that the world, it's like the world falls away and opens up when I guide women through that meditation because the void is such a huge place and our capacity to be connected to it is just so present. And so when we open up our awareness and our intention to that, it's kind of a back of the body experience. When we open our awareness and attention to that, it's such a vast place and it's almost, you can get vertigo because it's endless. Like really the sense of infiniteness, the sense of, yeah, infinite, unlimited possibility and potential and these like threads that you pull out of it, but that you really could never imagine. That's kind of a weird thing to say, but I just pictured it in my head and tried to say it out loud. It's one of those moments where I'm judging what I'm saying, but I don't know how else to explain it other than that you open your back body to this limitless potential that exists in the field that you are synced into from behind. And then all of the thin whispers and slivers and threads that want to be whispered to you to be channeled out into the world as your art, as language, as a story, as, your work, as love. And so that's here with us this whole month. Don't mind me and my brain. I wish I could sometimes show you the things that I see, the things that I feel when I am trying to like offer images. I wish that my words could do justice to the things that I see and feel. And then because we're in this hermit year, we also have the energy of justice with us. And this is a moment where I think the question around, is it possible for us to have a just world? What does justice look like? What does justice look like in my own heart and being? And what does justice look like out in the world? And I just want to remind you that justice is an energetic and it's a balancing energetic. It's a harmonizing energetic. So we'll see what that means for us this month ahead. But where do you find connection between those threads, those slivers that exist out in the void that are calling to you? Like, express this, say this, share this, go here, be this. Like, those threads that are lighting up in your heart and your mind and your field. And when you are brave enough, courageous enough, present enough to bring them into the world, how does that play? How does that rebalance? How does that add to the harmonizing of the world? Maybe you shouldn't underestimate your power. Maybe you shouldn't underestimate the instincts you have to move in certain places and do certain work. Maybe there's something about that the world desperately needs, like in a fairy tale, how it's always the one little thing, right? It's I don't know, the shell that the maiden carries in their pocket that at the last minute, that shell is the thing that saves the world, right? Don't underestimate what your instincts say about where you should be and what you should be doing. Which brings us to the card of the week, which is the King of Wands. Okay, we know my good friend, my sexy king. When he comes up, it's always a conversation of balancing, interesting, your responsibilities, your what you're in charge of, your domain, and your passion, your desires, your yearning for freedom, your longing for adventure, your desire to feel alive. And that's a constant negotiation for all people, right? But particularly when the King of Wands, like this is a tension for him. It's a tension for him of, I know I'm the king. I know I've worked hard to get here. I know this is so wonderful. I have all these responsibilities. I know all these people are counting on me. But man, I want to run naked through the sea. Like and I wanna, go dance on a beach somewhere. So there's this kind of push-pull between the things that we're devoted to and that we care deeply for and that we want to care for, and then the things that kind of call us, that make us feel alive and in the moment and free and wild and sexy and inspired. So that's always the tension with the King of Wands. It's always the thing to kind of notice when he's with us. And it's like a fair thing to look at and say, okay, where is my fire leading the way? And so I'm not like owning my responsibilities and my commitments. And where have I gotten my commitments and responsibilities gotten so heavy that it snuffed out my flame? What was interesting today when I pulled him was the message that came out was, don't think of those things in opposition. Something that I think you're gonna discover this month is that there's these ideas you have that you're holding in opposition. It's either or. It's this or that. I can't have both. And there's a way in which those two things want to be, and for you, it's gonna be specific, want to be brought onto the same field. Like, you're not right. It's not right to say that things have to be polarized. Within all things contains the seeds of all other things. And so there's a sense of, how am I holding these two things apart? It's either this or that. And the King of Wands wants us to be aware of that. Notice how you've differentiated some place where it's like, this is my responsibility, and this is the part of my life that lights me up. This is where I feel wild and free. And he's kind of like, our work is not to further polarize those things. Our work is to bring those two things into alignment. And a beautiful way to think about that is in the tantric framework of a sankalpa. So if you Rod Stryker, I love his book, The Four Desires. I highly recommend it if you haven't looked at it. It's a little bit dense, a little bit of a textbook, but you can pull out any of the exercises from it, and they're really powerful. And the way he talks about the sankalpa is, and this is a tantric belief, right? It's your deepest driving desire. And it's the desire that is really ruling your movements. And the way you are in a day is really ruled by the things you desire, whether you're aware of that connection or not. You only really do things that meet some desire in you, that satisfy some desire in you. And I could talk about this for days because it's really interesting, because there's this idea of, well, you want this thing, but then there's this other thing you want more, like you want to be free, but you want to be safe more than you want to be free. And so what are the negotiations you're making in your life and in your world and in your movements that actually display that the safety is a deeper desire than the freedom, or vice versa? And what the King of Wands wants us to realize or pay attention to in this week is, honor that deep driving desire. Like, drill down, spend time, take Rod Stryker's book or just journal around this. Like, what is the thing I want so much right now? And then how can I nest that thing, become aware of that thing, and use it not as a distraction, but as the fuel in my life, as the fuel to my devotion. So if for the King of Wands, right? Let's use this, our good friend, as an example. If he has something that he has made commitments to, that this is a responsibility in his life. We talk all the time about I have to versus I get to, right? Like, I have to cook dinner versus I get to cook dinner. Like, there's a big difference in holding those two energies. And then thinking about the deep driving desire, the part of you that wants to be free, that wants to express yourself, that wants to be creative, that wants to feel sexy and alive. Why is that part held in contrast or conflict to the part of you that has commitments? So if you do X for a job, but you also want to paint or you also want to express yourself, how can you bring that desire to create art into your job? Or if you can't, then what changes do you need to make to bring peace to that? But there's this really interesting tension, like, I can either be wild and free and sexy and creative, or I can be committed. And the King of Wands is like, that's a fool's choice, because you have to honor the part of you that seeks to express itself, that seeks to be alive, that seeks to prove to itself that it's alive. And also, there's something deeply satisfying and grounding about honoring your commitments. And so, this idea that we have to choose one or the other, again, is like a joke. It's not a real choice. The King of Wands is like, no, let's think about this. And this goes back to what we said a couple weeks ago about your sacred fire. Where are you not honoring that? And where is your life out of alignment with these two things? I hope that makes sense. And it's just, and it's all going to be different for each of us. But there's this curiosity, this question: if I need X, if this is my desire around creation, around living, around freedom, around liberation, how can it actually become something that burns in a way that creates the change I need in my life, creates the movements I need in my life? So, just investigating where you separate out. And I think just last thing I want to say about this, and I've said this before, but it's an interesting example and it always really rings true for me, was during quarantine. I was home alone with my children, three of them, the four of us, and they had never really seen me work, right? So I would go to Salt House, I would do work with people. Did I even do work with people online before that? I don't remember. But I would work with clients, or I'd, be in classes, or I would take classes, I would teach classes. And they had never seen that part of me, and I didn't realize how much I held those things apart, me as a mother and me as a woman who works in the spiritual fields, or a woman who has a spiritual practice and a passion for working with other women, for teaching people how to be more empowered in their bodies. I never realized that I held those two parts of me so separate until they were forced to be in the same space, and I remember, like, specifically being uncomfortable with them hearing me work, and then I had to get over that. And then I had to trust them with the version of me that was not just their mother. And I, at the same, like, as much as that might have been uncomfortable in the moment, I really attribute it to one of the reasons I feel so close to my children, is because there's things that are that are mine, that are, like, not to share with them. But as a full person, they know me more because of that time we spent together. And I know them more. It's the same thing. There's a part of them that goes off to school and it's like a black box. I only hear good things from their teachers. I otherwise don't know a lot about what happens in those school buildings. And when they were here for quarantine, they were in the house and I got to hear them interacting with their friends, hear them interacting with their teachers. I got to glimpse a part of them that I didn't know. And so it's a beautiful thing to become more fully intimate with a person you love, to see. It's like when you're part and you go see them at work and you see the way they are at work and you're like, that's so exciting and sexy to see that dimension of you that I don't know. Or my aunt, she's an incredible mother. She's like an incredible human being in every aspect. When she talks about her work, when I see her in her work, she lights up in a whole new way. That's kind of what this energy is with this King of Wands. Like, notice where you're compartmentalizing yourself, and if it doesn't feel okay to break those down, or if it feels scary to kind of be more fully yourself in different spaces, bring more of your authentic self to different spaces. It's something just to think about, and it's a curiosity of, like, can I really not trust that space with my full self, or have I just not given the space the opportunity to know my full self? And so that all comes into play. Like, you cannot ignore your desires forever. That is really a type of self harm. It is a deadening of your precious time here. And so, and remember again, what you desire is not just like what you want. What you desire is life's burning through you. It's life trying to experience and express itself, God, source, love, trying to experience and express itself through your movements. So it's such a sacred thing. And the King of Wands really just kind of wants to bring our attention to that this week. Okay, I hope that's helpful. Couple things to tell you. Well, I'm going to start a membership community after we finish the Tarot Mystery School live. Really, that was such an incredible group of women, and I know I'd like to continue to work with them. A lot of women locally that I work with, and clients that I work with kind of far and wide. And I don't know about you, but I'm just craving more community. And I want us to realize that we're not alone. And I want us to realize that there's work to do in the best way and like the most inspired, joyful way to become more fully ourselves. And my opinion, my experience is the best way to do that is to be in community together. So I'm aiming for March 1st, but it might be maybe as late as, later in March or April 1st. But like look for more on that. That's going to be really fun and exciting. Shaman school, we are starting in August. The first weekend will be in August, so we'll probably start having those communications in July. So if shaman school, if you didn't get to sign up already and that's still something you'd like to do, please reach out to me. I'm trying to build a webpage on that too, so that information is online. And I think that's it. Just like really craving, real life time with people right now. I think that we need each other more than ever. I've said this to you before too, but a woman who comes to Women's Circle, she told a story once about struggling and how when she took a minute to breathe, what she felt was not only her own breath, but she felt like the mycelium network, like the roots of all the women in circle standing with her. And so, in a moment where she felt alone and sad and stressed and confused, she was able to close her eyes and feel all the women in circle with her, like through the root system, through the very, very live and fertile root system that we all share together. I do think that one small way, and maybe not so small way, we can change the world is to really trust each other with those root systems and trust each other with each other's growth and with each other's fullness. And that's the work I want to do. So that's what's on my mind. Sending you so much love and reminding you of your staff, reminding you of those symbols that are with the Hermit this year that are such potent, powerful reminders of the support you might need as you set off on this new venture that is 2025, this new world, this new way that we're all entering into. All right, so much love to you and check you later. Bye.